Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Family Edition behind the scenes featurette. Of course, my name is Chris. I was the co story writer, co editor, screenplay writer, and director for this film. And of course, I was one of the actors in the film. What you're going to see here is an outline of what we did throughout the pre production, the production, the post production and the release of the Family Edition. So I hope you guys enjoy. The origins of the Family Edition stem back many years ago when Rebecca, my wife, and I were still dating. And basically, we would just talk about how fun it would be to do like a movie trilogy or like a series of films um, that were kind of like time capsules of what it was like, within our life of building our family. So I think the rough idea was the first movie would be um, what it would be like for us to have a kid. The second movie would be like what would it be to have two kids, and then we would just kind of take it from there. And then basically what happened was many years later, um, my wife and I were married, and then eventually we became pregnant. And all of a sudden we were like, well, I guess we could do this movie idea we had. And we decided let's not do this until obviously Rebecca gives birth and we get an idea of what life is like to have a baby, because we wanted this to be based off of our real life, but obviously to be fictionalized. And so um, I think it was like 3 months later, um, we started having meetings, Rebecca and I, because that was a big thing. We wanted this trilogy of films to not be the work of one person. So in other words, I wasn't going to just sit there and be like, this is my idea for the story, and that would just be the end of it. I really wanted to like collaborate with my family as much as we could. Our son Jack was obviously 3 months old and wasn't able to really contribute a whole lot to the creative process yet. So instead, Rebecca and I, decided to work on it. Becca was writing a book at the time, which she's about to release at the time of this recording. And so she was very busy and couldn't really help write the script, but she did want to help write the story. So that's where we began having meetings where we were breaking in the story. We were trying to figure out what are we doing? What are we basing off of? What sections are we basing off of our life? What's going to be just something we make up? What's going to be a marriage of the two? And so we did that for a few weeks, and basically that was us just outlining the story and doing that, for a while. And then once we had a fully outlined story that we were pleased with, I went off and started writing the screenplay. And what I would basically do is I would write a screenplay or a draft, and then we would have a meeting based off of that draft, and we would read the script out loud, and we would just discuss what works, what doesn't work, what should we change, what should be cut, what should be added, all that sort of stuff. And then I would go off and write another draft. And then once I felt I was satisfied with that draft, we'd come back. And we did this, I forgot how many times we did it, but we did go back and forth a few times, just making sure we were nailing what we wanted. And then once we felt like the script was complete, we were like, okay, great, we're ready to film this when we can. We didn't film immediately after we wrote it because actually, while we were doing all the pre production on this, we were also doing the production of Max 3. Drunk Max 3, we had put on hold, as I mentioned, after pre production for us to, give birth and get used to being parents and whatnot. And so we were doing two movies at the same time. So we were filming Max 3 and then having these meetings and writing the script. So all throughout filming Drunk Max 3, I was writing the Family Edition and just getting all that prepped up. So that was kind of a tough period because we were doing pre-production on this, production on Max 3, and then on top of that, we were also taking care of our newly born child during all this. So it was hard. Once Drunk Max 3 had wrapped filming, we were like, okay, great, let's move on. We could start filming the family edition. So then it became I was editing Drunk Max 3 while filming the family edition. So that was interesting. It didn't really, bother me too much. But usually when I'm filming a movie, if I like for example, we film the beginning of the movie, I'll get that and I'll cut, I'll start cutting the movie. But in this case, I couldn't do that because I was editing something else. So that was kind of weird that I didn't get like a leg up in getting started on cutting Family Edition. And but instead, it was cutting a completely different movie with a completely different tone, while also doing like pickups for that film and things like that. So it was really odd. Another thing that was kind of weird about filming was our son was alive during this time, and he was definitely older than he was while we were filming Max 3. So, and he was in this film. So, one of the first things we said was, let's just do every single shot that has our son in it. Let's just get those out of the way so that maybe while he's taking a nap or, he's having a break or something, we could film everything else. So that's exactly what we did. We did every shot you see in the movie that has my son. Those were the first 2 days of filming that we just tackled all those things, and then everything else went afterwards. For the most part, filming was pretty good. It was just whenever our son needed us. Sometimes it was in the middle of a shot or something of that nature. And that would kind of like that was tough. Also, anytime we had to go in the car or we had to go outside, anything like that, that was hard as well because we had to, go off and do all these things with him. So we had to find a way to hide him in the shot or hope that he wasn't talking while we were trying to deliver a line. Which, again, if you've seen the Drunk Max 3 behind the scenes, very similar, situations because it was so close after each other. The shoot was, like the way we shot it, it was pretty straightforward. There wasn't anything odd about it. Really, it was just managing continuity because we were jumping all over in the timeline. This movie is not very linear. It's kind of like a lot of flashbacks. So that was something we had to do. Also, we had to artificially create a flashback at the beginning of the movie when it's us, together, and we're supposed to be pre-pregnant. For future movies, because each film will in the Family Trilogy will open with a flashback. And I didn't know we were gonna do that. So in this film, we had to kind of artificially create one. But I kind of cheated a little bit because I did use footage from Drunk Max 2, which we had shot in the past. So it was getting what we looked like in those shots and basically recreating it. But I think it worked. But no, production went very well, and we had wrapped the movie, and then we were like, "All right, great, we're ready to cut this." Usually, when I finish a movie, I pretty much immediately go into cutting it, or I've been cutting it, or whatever the course was. With this movie going into it, I knew that Rebecca and I were going to be editing it together. Because that was something Becca was very adamant on co-doing, since this was a big family project. I had directed the film, and had written the screenplay, but it was really like she and I had came up with the story together, and she and I were going to shape the final kind of like shaping of the story. Having Rebecca do this with me, I knew it was going to be a really fun time. Unfortunately, right before we were about to start filming, I was actually diagnosed with cancer. And so we had to pretty much put the movie on hold. The film was shelved for quite some time. Um, while I was receiving chemotherapy and all the stuff I was doing. It wasn't until I started getting used to the chemotherapy in the sense of the pattern of how we were doing things, and if I had strength during some of the times, I would start putting an assembly of the movie together. So that Rebecca and I can start like chipping away and figuring out what we wanted to keep and stuff like that. Uh, I think it was after my surgery in January, so around maybe February, March, something like that. I was on a break from doing chemotherapy because they wanted me to heal from my surgery. She and I, Rebecca and I, we really started working on the movie more. We started cutting it more, and it was really wonderful because it was kind of like an escape. It was like over the course of a year, basically. This film was cut together very slowly until finally Rebecca and I really started shaping it. Uh, we we saw the first cut and we agreed on a lot of stuff. We were like, yeah, this should be cut. This should be cut. We had a lot of temporary shots. We did some pickup shots. There was only four pickup shots, if I recall correctly. The last shot we needed was me, but the thing was, I didn't look like me. So we had to wait a very long time, and if you see the movie, I still don't really look like me because I'm still healing and I barely have a beard. Like basically, I had eyebrows, and then like my beard, like I had like a 12 o'clock shadow, and I said, "Great, I have a beard," because I'd forgotten what what having a beard was like. And I put on my wig and I just shot, the pickup shot, but in actuality, looking at it now, it does stand out tremendously as something that obviously I filmed much later. But yeah, pretty much after that, Rebecca and I sat down. We watched the film on our big screen TV downstairs, and we came to an agreement, and we said, yeah, I think this is the final cut, and post production was the film was wrapped. It was completed. Normally, for me, when I finish a film, one of my films, I'm like, great, cool. Let's have a release. Let's release this film. The funny thing is, we didn't really do one. Turned it back and I said, "Hey, should we release this movie? Like, it's our film. What do you think we should do?" And Becca was like, "No, let's just do an online release. Let's try that out." Like that was the agreement. Pretty much, I don't think anyone who showed up to the online premiere. It's really weird. Not too many people know this film was released. Because I remember months later, I asked people like, "Hey man, did you see the Family Edition, my new movie?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" It was fun for Rebecca and I. I mean, we had fun. So to kind of wrap things up on this behind the scenes featurette, the Family Edition was a very different movie that I had a hand in making for several reasons. One being obviously I worked a lot with my wife on this film. Another thing that was odd about it was, we still had a kid. We were still getting used to a lot of this. We were filming this movie, about having a kid while we had a kid, and that was still something that was new. I was working on another film. I had never done that before, done two movies back to back. In the post production, this is the longest I took to cut a movie, and it wasn't because we had so much material, it was because I was going through cancer and cancer treatment and surgeries and all this, and it was exhausting, and we just didn't have time to do it. The future of the series, so this is just the first of three films. I have no idea at this time what the structure of the movies are going to be. They're not going to be identical. All I know is that every single movie begins with a flashback to a time prior to the main events of the film. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this behind the scenes featurette. We will be coming back for a sequel at one point. And of course, there's going to be a ton of new content being posted on this channel. I hope you guys enjoy all the other bonus features we've released for this digital release of the Family Edition. And thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Take care.